I've been a staunch Ben Simmons defender from the start, really, but it's tough to have a point of attack guard who shot 4 of 14 from the free throw line and was getting hacked, and they had to keep the ball out of his hands because the Hawks were trying to climb back from that 20 plus point deficit. Only took 4 field goal attempts in a close playoff game, and per StatMuse, among players in a single playoff run who have taken at least 50 free throw attempts, he now has the second worst free throw percentage in a playoff run, 32.8%, which only beats Ben Wallace in 2006, who was at 27.3%. I think I've been hesitant to engage in this conversation because the amount of defensive flexibility Ben Simmons brings, the transition offense, his ability to serve as a brilliant passer and a quality cutter, to me, it often supersedes the very obvious warts in his game. But those are just becoming more and more pronounced. And I feel like this game in particular could be used as the start of a bigger conversation about the validity of having him as a part of the Sixers core. Is that too hot takey coming off this game?
No, because it's clear that he and Joel Embiid work, but this is untenable during the postseason. It's not a he and Joel Embiid thing. It's a Ben Simmons thing at this point. And like you already mentioned, he wound up missing 10 free throws in game 5, 4 of 14. And there's, when you're looking at free throw percentages, you can really quibble over how many points you're really leaving on the board. 28.6% on 14 attempts is a problem. And when you're only taking 4 shots too throughout the game and you don't have range beyond that, which we need this was always lazy discourse, but you can't want Ben Simmons to take threes when he can't make standstill wide open free throws. That can't be a thing at this point. And if Philly loses this series, the Ben Simmons trades will have to be looked at. And the natural targets will be the Ben Simmons, CJ McCollum structure will be visited, I'm sure, or Ben Simmons for Bradley Beal. I don't know which way you go. McCollum feels more likely just because if you are Washington, and I'm not trying to downplay Simmons' value under contract for another 4 more years, and he's, defensive player of the year quality. He is only 24, turns 25 in July. If you're Washington, is that who you want to begin your rebuild around? I'm not even considering the fit with Russell Westbrook because there isn't one. I just don't think you weigh that if you're thinking longer term because Russell Westbrook is not the future either. You probably need to give up, my point would be, other stuff to get Bradley Beal, whereas CJ McCollum, maybe there's a chance Portland has to send you back something else. At this point, though, when you look at is it fair to call him a liability that he's become on offense? Maybe that's just a straight up swap.
Let's relay what happened during the closing minutes of this game. We were watching together. We were on Skype and we're streaming the game through the Watch TNT app and kind of talking through it together. And both of us, when the Sixers had the ball down 3 or 4, I can't remember, with 21 seconds left, we didn't think that Simmons was going to be back on the court after a timeout was called because he's not going to shoot a 3. He can't touch the ball or else Atlanta's going to foul him immediately. So that in and of itself, I think, is a huge indication of just how much of a perceived liability he's become. He was still on the floor for that possession. It didn't work, but he was on the floor. I'm more intrigued by the Portland framework, though, because I do like the idea of pairing him with Damian Lillard. That's something that Philadelphia doesn't have, that Washington doesn't have, unless he's playing with Beal, which is that dominant point of attack creator who can pull up and create his own looks and shoot from all over the floor. Embiid is a terrific offensive talent, but that's not what he is.
Right. Here's where it would get interesting. Do you think that Philly's defense, because it was built on elite, they're built on elite defense as well, does it sustain the loss of going from a Ben Simmons to a CJ McCollum? That is a big ass difference. And Ben Simmons is somebody who you can just put on. We can talk about how rim protectors are probably or definitely inherently more impactful defensively, but to have that guy in Ben Simmons who you can put on anybody that you want and know that he's going to make a difference, losing that is tough. And it feels necessary because you need the greater optionality, versatility, whatever on offense. It's just, that's a huge drop off. You go from Ben Simmons to Bradley Beal, you go from Ben Simmons to CJ McCollum, it doesn't matter. that is just such a massive drop off on defense. I'd be curious whether I think the Sixers would have a better fitting roster, but I don't know how much it elevates them. And look, they did, with when Joel Embiid played without Ben Simmons this year, there's lineup context to think about. They were in the 18th percentile of defensive efficiency. And so I don't know that you can just count on, hey, give Matisse Thybulle a crap ton more minutes, bring back Danny Green, and they'd be fine. There are probably some real issues there that they have to consider.
I'm really glad that you said that proactively, because my response was going to be, it wouldn't be as good, but bring back Danny Green and give Matisse Thybulle more minutes, and they'll probably be fine.
I mean, the development of Tyrese Maxey looms kind of large here, but Ben Simmons is incredibly important to what Philadelphia does defend. I mean, he's one of the 5 to 7 best defenders in the game. So, and he's probably the single most versatile defender. He's got to be.
We've
up
seen
there.
that in the data. Just the matchup data alone indicates as much, that he covers a wider variety of assignments and covers them well than anyone else.
Yeah. I think you, at this point though, you probably just need it for the variance in how your team is run, though, right? You look at that move seriously if you wind up losing to the Hawks, like
you're
this.
Not moving Tobias Harris. You're not moving Embiid. You probably have to make a change if you have a series loss to Atlanta with this many blown leads, regardless of what's going on with Embiid's health.
Now, I think the thing we aren't talking about, what if a sign and trade for Kyle Lowry is on the table? You can figure out the hard cap stuff. Your package obviously isn't going to include Ben Simmons. Is that the preferential route to giving up Ben Simmons? That package is going to cost you at least one of Maxey and Thybulle. At least one of them. Plus,
right,
you probably have to double sign and trade Danny Green, because I don't know what your salary filler is now, because Danny Green's coming off the books. You're not moving Tobias Harris in that deal either, I wouldn't think. I would say that that's probably the preferential route. I just don't know how realistic it is post-trade deadline, because there are going to have to be other money mechanisms in there to make it work.
Yeah. I'm getting slightly distracted just because I'm seeing all these Ben Simmons tweets coming in. And just to relay a few that were great, I saw somebody say, and I'm already blanking on who it was, that Simmons, who shot 4 of 14, actually shot better from the line this game than he did the previous game, where he only made 20% of his looks. And Anthony Doyle tweeted, Ben Simmons has missed more free throws this year in the playoffs than Steve Nash missed in the playoffs his entire career. Ben has shot 67 free throws. Steve Nash shot 440.
That is wild.
And again, I'm not really here for the Ben Simmons slander, because as we mentioned at the top of this segment, like, there's so much good that he does, but it just speaks to the growing problem.
This would be counter to our one discussion where we said there are obstacles for every star and should just accept them. This is one of those borderline, is it an unworkable obstacle? And the question there would be, can they make this team more playoff proof on the margins without making that wholesale change? And the Kyle Lowry sign and trade is the best move I can think of.
I agree. I hesitate to take any one star level player, and Ben Simmons is a star level player, and just say that you can't win a title with them.
I think the issue is
he's pushing closer to that category unless there's a perfectly constructed roster around him that can account for the very serious flaws. You could get away with the hack of Shaq and the hack of Dwight Howard and the hack of Ben Wallace's, because they're not primary ball handlers. But that with Ben Simmons, if you can't have the ball in his hands at the end of a game, you cannot play him.
Yeah, and that's where it's like, I don't know that moves on the margins solve this team, which is where it gets interesting. So it would have to be the Kyle Lowry type move, or that's why you're visiting the Ben Simmons trade scenarios, because I don't think that you can just be like, hey, can we get Austin Rivers or Alec Burks in here and be fine? I don't know if it's that, maybe I would say the lowest end game changer for them would be an Evan Fournier, and I'm not even sure like that does it.